Hey guys, J77 here, doing a special video, a video regarding a movie that's coming out this Christmas. It is a movie that has a lot of good star power behind it, Les Miserables. Uh, and just to let you know off the bat, this is not a movie review, nor a trailer review, but my own concern regarding this movie as to why I'm concerned about this movie. Now, I'm just letting you know off the bat, this is just my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with me. You guys may feel that there's nothing going to be wrong with this movie. You may feel this movie is going to have a high success and probably win a ton of awards. And you may just say that I'm pretty much a lunatic. That's fine. That's okay. This is just my own personal opinion. And this is pretty much based on the movies that I've noticed coming out lately within the last 5 years, as well as how movies are being promoted now in Hollywood, especially during the holiday season. So with that being said, I might as well just get to my concern of this movie. Les Mis is perhaps one of the most frequently adapted literature to movie, literature to stage ever. Uh, Places all across the country has pretty much done either a stage play, a high school play, or a movie adaptation of some form, whether animation or just pretty much live action, um, during the course of each decade. The last film to be put into the big screen was in 1998 with Lane Nielsen. With that being said, that film didn't do too well in the box office. It did had a very good, strong um, ratings. A lot of critics did give it a very fair, good ratings, but not as much as it which you would come to expect from a very highly popular novel. With that being said, and I was kind of surprised that they actually attempted to do it again. Now, many people have told me that this is probably due to the fact that a lot of people still have a high adherence because of the Broadway show that was done in New York and also all across the country, as well as this being just a very, very good story. I tend to agree with both of those aspects, but I do find myself pretty much not helping but feel that this film is destined to fail. I don't feel this film is going to do well at all, and I think the only reason why it's being released in the Christmas schedule is because as you all know, award season is coming up, and this film is pretty much not as much as being pushed as a blockbuster, but more of an award film where it probably will not be. It probably will not last long in theaters. It will last just long enough so it can come in and come out. I think it will get the first impression viewers before they get the other ones to flock in. This is largely because we have other films that are just are coming out. You know, you got The Habit is coming out later on this month, as well as Django Unchained is coming out. So it's gonna be a lot of films that's gonna be up against. And let's be honest, musicals on the last 10 years hasn't done all that well. There's a lot of reasons for it, but in general, even the good ones, the ones that I actually highly recommend, hasn't really broke any records. It now. Granted, there are some that actually was nominated for an Academy Award and actually won Best Picture, Chicago being one of them. But in all, the track record in the last 10 years or so hasn't been all that great. And I feel that this film will fall on that category of a movie that sole purpose is to be nominated for some kind of award, and that's it, and it probably will disappear. I hope it won't do that. It does have a great all-star cast: Gene Hackman, Anne Hathaway, Amanda Seyfried. They do have a very strong cast, and it does look like it could be probably one of the greatest Les Mis movies ever since the 1938 film, where that movie was nominated for the Academy Award. Or it can just be a surprisingly disappointing film. It can go either way. So I'm not saying this film is going to be a bad film nor a good film, but I do have some concerns that I have to iron out first, both from Hollywood's perspective, how they produce movies, and just the fact is why make it a musical. And I might as well just start with the first one. I wrote down a list here. Is the pretty much, like I said earlier, so many adaptations. We had a lot of films, and I'm not even including the ones that the animation film. I'm talking about the ones that is most recognizable that have been released in the last few years. We had the one that came out in 1938, 1958. We had the film that came out in 2004, 2000. I'm not sorry, 1994, 1998, and now we got the one coming out in 2011. I haven't included the animation films that came out, the Japanese animation films, the one that came out in Germany. There are so many different versions out there to make another one, which, by the way, isn't too far apart from the Lame Nielsen, Uma Thurman version. I'm kind of wondering, is it really necessary to bring one out so damn soon? I mean, granted, 1998, 2012 is got a good distance, but it still is not enough where I can say, well, why bring this out? I mean, look at the 1938 version, which a lot of people still consider one of the best ones. They didn't make the film right away. It came out in 1958. Film was okay, but then we have other ones that many people find disappointing, and that leads me to my second beef with this film is you're never going to match what the author has done to Les Mis. Les Mis is pretty much a grand literary history by itself. I mean, you can't compare that book to the rest. There are just some books that stands on its own. You can't compare it to this book. You can't compare it to any other author that came after that book. This is just a standalone book, and there's a lot of reasons, which brings me to my second gripe with this. And the second gripe is the difference between length of the movie versus the length of the films. And let me just run down all the movies that was based on novels in the last few years, and you pretty much understand where I'm coming from. Harry Potter and Deathly Hallow is 726 pages in US, because it's actually shorter, surprisingly, in the UK. They broke that up into two movies, and a lot of people said, "Oh, because they want to stay true to the source material, they want to give it all. They want to give the fans what they've been craving for these years." Some even say they learned a lesson from the Order of the Phoenix, when they just basically condensed everything into a short film. So people didn't really much mind. Okay, it's two parts. Breaking Dawn. Surprisingly, I didn't know this. I don't read the books, but it's 756 pages. They broke that up into two movies. A lot of people thought it was watered down the first half. Second half, a little bit more satisfying. Let's go to Mockingjay, an upcoming film they are planning to do as a two-part film. That's only 390 pages. So they're pretty much stretching the water thin. But a lot of people said, "Oh, that's great. They're going to put everything in the source materials." The Habit, 310 pages. This is a trilogy. I don't know how they plan to do a trilogy with 300 with the resource of 310 pages, unless there's some unreleased manuscript somewhere that I have not been aware of. But this is okay, fine. All right, now let's go to Les Mis. Les Miserables is 1,900 pages long, broken up into 5 parts. So you got 1,900 page broken into 5 parts, each one following sometimes different timelines and different events that's going on during the course of the book. By the way, you're never going to see a 1,900 page book again in a long time. Editors just won't go for that. Editors will tell you you're going to break it up into different type of books, or it's not going to be released. They did that with the Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings supposed to be a lot longer than what it was. It's supposed to be the second part of the Habit. It ended up being a trilogy by itself. So there that is. Yeah, this is a 1,900 page book, and it's only have one movie. One movie. Now, if Hollywood was trying to stay true to the source material at hand, I would expect they would actually make this Les Mis Part 1, They can do it. This book has the resource. No, it gets one movie. And why? Because Hollywood knows that musicals, and this is a musical, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, are not as probable when it comes to box office receipts. And that's what brings me to my gripe with all the other films that I talk about, and why they did what they did with Breaking Dawn, Mockingjay, the Harry Potter series, The Habit. They're not breaking it up into different parts because they want to stay true to the source material. Some of that may be true, but most of the time, 89.9% of the time is they want to cash in on the product as much as possible. This is a cash grab for them. That's why they have 3D. That's why we have these films being broken up into two parts. And to me, I'm like this. If you're gonna break it up into two parts, fine, but it has to have enough source material to do it. Les Mis have enough source material so you could actually bring it to the big screen the way the author has intended to be. And before anybody says that's not possible, all I gotta say is Hamlet, Kenneth Branagh, he did it. He not only did it, he did it well. He did it better than anybody else. Broke it up into two parts, became one of the best epics of all time, one of the best Shakespearean adaptation of all times. So that's all I've got to say about that. You can do what Les Mis if you break it up into those parts, but it's not something. It may be culturally popular, but in terms of a money grab, especially what happened to in 1998, they're not going to do that. It leads me to my next worry about this: the musical. I don't know if the other ones from the 1950s or the 30s was a musical. I will say that. I seriously doubt it was. Especially 1930, because I think the musical came out during the early parts of the 80s. I believe first in the UK, then it came real popular in Broadway in New York. But to me, there's a reason why the musical worked. And let me tell you something. I love the musical. I'm not sitting here bashing the musical, but there was a reason why they made it into a musical. If you paid attention very carefully to what was being said in the musical, they're actually giving you expedition. They're actually giving you information of what happened, which led him to be in prison. It explains that, especially in the first song, the very first song. Look down, when they were like when they was working in the yards. You're hearing the expedition. You're hearing it from the main character. You're hearing it from the parole board. You understand that he stole over bread from that scenario. You understand that this is what he spent 20 years in prison because he tried to rob the place. Then he tried to run for police. You're getting all that in that one scene, and it works because, as you know, stage plays of any kind has very limited resource. You literally have to use your imagination, and the music helps not only move the story along, but it also gives us information that we otherwise will be scratching our head and saying, what the hell just happened, because they didn't mention it, because they couldn't mention it due to time restraints. The Nostalgia Chick in her review have said it best, and if that's still up, I will leave a link to that, because I think that's she had made a great argument about the Broadway play and why the movie sometimes just didn't work, because it's so much source material that it's impossible to actually get everything onto a big screen. And she's right. This is a 1,900 page book. The only other book that comes close to them, and they actually adapted it into a 5-part series at one point, was War and Peace. That's 1,225. So that's actually more. You're getting more of Les Mis than you do with War and Peace, and both of them are great books. I got War and Peace. I love that book, and that's actually broken up into 4 books with 2 epilogues. Don't know why it needs 2 epilogues, but hey, I'll leave that for you guys to explain that to me. But you understand what I'm getting for it. When you have these books, you have so much source material. You're not going to condense all that within a 2-hour and 38-minute film. This is almost a 3-hour film. I guarantee you're not going to get everything that book was meant to show in 3 hours. It's just not going to happen, especially when a 1,900 page book. So that's my main thing. The musical here can do 2 things to this movie. It can hurt it because it's explaining things we either already saw and should be explained just by regular dialogue and regular action towards the character, towards the actors, or they may try and recycle what the Broadway play did, which in turn makes it pointless because, like I just explained, there's a reason why this was made into music and why it was successful. But versus, I can see things on screen. I can see what's going on screen, unless they actually connect this music to what's actually going on in front of us, like they did with Evita, because Evita is a perfect example of a Broadway musical movie done right. Because everything that was done, from the dialogue to their reactions, was done in song, and it was done perfectly. That's one of the reasons why I say one of the best musical movies that I've seen was Evita. Because Evita, you did not guess what happened in the past. They explained it. They explained it through music. Then they went to the next scene, music. They went to the next scene, music. Lame is, I don't know if you can do that with that, because most of this music that they're playing is actually explaining what happened, where otherwise it would be a big gap. And that's the thing that I'm also concerned about. Also, another concern about is the last thing I'm concerned about is the box office. Again, musicals, very rarely you have that musical that will break box office records. They didn't say how much this movie costs, but I can imagine it costs pretty much a hefty price, but especially with the star power it has. There's no guarantee they're gonna come close to making that money. It's no guarantee, and like I said, with a lot of bad musicals that was average, there hasn't been too many musicals that can actually sit down and say that there was a major blockbuster smash. I can tell you that there were some musicals that actually won critically acclaim. I can tell you that there are these films that actually won Best Picture, but not one that I can actually say that have risen to the top. Musicals are very rare. Do you see a musical that's been done critically or commercially when in terms of revenue? It's very, very, very hard. One of the two films I remember a few years ago that they said this is going to break shatter box office records and it's going to win a lot of awards. Both of them not only had bad reviews, but it didn't even come close to even making the money that they spent to make it. That was Rent, which is a good Broadway show when it was out, and The Producers. They both came out at the same time, and both of them pretty much tanked. I think the only person who actually survived harsh acclaim was Nathan Lane, I believe. He was the one who played the character Miss Bialystok, which, by the way, him and well, I can't get this guy name for some reason. Him and Matthew Broadway, sorry, had done well in Broadway. They was fantastic in Broadway, but that was the point. There was a reason why they done well in Broadway, and they had a success in Broadway. It was wonderful. I have the soundtrack, by the way. They try to do the same thing in the big screen, and what they end up doing is they end up rushing a lot of songs they shouldn't be rushing, and it became just a big mess. Where if they would have released it the same way they released the film back in the 70s, when they had Gene Wilder, and I forgot the other guy's name. He has a very strange name. I don't want to disrespect the guy's name, but he's very, very good. He also played in Broadway for a few while. If they would have done it the way that was done there, it probably would have worked. But they did it in musical, and it didn't work, and it fell badly. And I saw that film and said, "Wow, you really dropped the ball there." Ren was a whole totally different thing, and we all seen how that happened. But in many cases, this is the thing I mean. There are some good Broadway movies that actually did, to me, did okay. I thought Phantom of the Opera was well done. I thought they did a good job. Granted, I know they didn't had struck a chord with critics, but I thought it was fine. Again, Evita, I loved it. I loved Evita very, very well. Hey, Sound of Music was good. So there are some that actually surpass that, but not everything, not all musicals that you see on Broadways and stage plays can make that transition well. I don't know if Les Mis can make that transition well. I just don't know. They're taking a big risk out of this, and I'm hoping it does well. I'm praying it does well, because, like I said, Les Mis is a very, very good read and a very good Broadway show. I'm hoping that it makes a comeback on Broadway very, very soon. But in terms of a movie adaptation on a book that is 1,900 pages long, that is only going to be one movie, and it's going to be done the same way as a Broadway show, it can work, but I seriously doubt it. Not with the source material that they're asking for. But again, that's just my opinion, guys. That's just my opinion. I want this film to do good. I really do. I really hope this film does great. I really do hope this film got high praises. Even for those who even like Broadway shows, I know a lot of people don't tend to stay away from Broadway shows because they can't understand why someone will go into song for absolutely no reason. There is a reason. You gotta pretty much be in sync to what's really going on. But in my own opinion, I do not feel that this film is going to go too far. And as far as this film being pushed as an award film, there'd probably be other films that would just capsize this film, especially since people who already seen other adaptations may say, well, I'm going to see the same film I saw years ago. And that can really be a main factor. This film highly have to step up their game and show us something different if people are going to actually waste, spend their hard-earned money to see it. But I could be wrong. This film may actually explode it. I will say this: as far as the trailer concerned, I am pretty much impressed by it. And then, before anybody asks me, I don't care about the PG-13 rating. That's really irrelevant right now. It's a musical, and to be honest with you, most musicals, not all but most, do carry the PG-13 brand. It's almost guaranteed it's going to be PG-13 brand. It's very rare that you have a film that is a musical that's rated R unless it's really, really extreme and they have no choice but to make it R. But in terms of that, it does look like an interesting film. It does look like something that I can sink my teeth into. I'm just worried that this film may fall before it had a chance to rise, especially come award time. What do you guys feel about what I just said? Do you guys feel the same concern? Do you guys are going to be looking forward to seeing this movie? Do you guys don't care about this movie? Or do you guys feel that I made some sense in some of the stuff I brought out? I'd like to hear your opinion, especially for all you movie buffs out there, especially for all you guys who love Broadway shows. Leave your comment below, let me know. Until then, this is J77 saying take care, be safe, talk to you soon.